Fetching video stream. Aha!
Are we all right?
We've been fetched. That's what it says.
Good.
Yeah.
So here we are,
live.
Jimmy Doan live, and
That's it.
just about 12 seconds early.
That's right. Perfectly scripted as usual.
Yeah. Well, this is in no particular order. We're gonna have some fun today.
What? It is. Look. Quit saying that. This is in the most important order.
Well, I guess at the end. Wait for it.
Oh, the most important last. Is that what you did? That's
Well, I got some light notes
Oh, okay.
that are worth waiting for. You probably when you put this back up on YouTube, though, you'll have the little markers, right? So they can skip right to the light notes or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I noticed they did that on the Alaska City Commission. Now they have a thing where you can go right to the particular thing on the video.
It's super cool. I mean, it's YouTube that does it. They just, if you put a time in there, it knows what you're talking about.
Wow. Well, the thing about this Jimmy Doan show, by the way, it's Sunday, 4 o'clock. Let's see, Friday the 13th came on a Sunday this month.
Okay. No. This is the Sunday the 13th. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying. Friday the 13th came on a Sunday. You people haven't been around since Pogo was on. Walt Kelly's Pogo, and Turtle. Every time there was a 13th, Turtle would always say, Friday the 13th came on a Monday or Sunday or whatever.
Oh, so it's an inside joke.
Totally inside. If you haven't. I don't know when Walt Kelly died, but Pogo
It's like
hadn't been
18.
on. Yeah, right, something like that. That's right. So this is Jimmy Doan with Counselor Curtis.
That's me.
And we are here Sunday and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
About 4 o'clock. Okay. The shutdown is still on. It has now gone into the longest one ever. Now, cumulatively, it's not the longest one. I was reading something that during Obama's, he had 3 or 4 or 5 different shutdowns during the 8 years.
Oh, okay.
And cumulatively, it was like 47 days. Yeah, no, a couple of them were like 1 day or 2 days.
So we've got 2 years left, and this one's still open.
Right. No, I understand that. Well, this is fascinating, and it's interesting to see what the criers are all about. I mean, one of the things I noticed here, the federal employees were never concerned for the employees of GM, Kmart, Sears, and Toys R Us, who when got kicked out with not even a by your leave, and they're not going to get paid, and yet the government their first check was due Friday. Okay, 2 days ago. That was the first one they've missed.
Right.
So they've been just fine.
Yeah, but did you just compare that to private companies, or
Yeah.
what?
Well, what I'm saying is that nobody was weeping for the private companies, and now we're supposed to weep for the public companies who are.
That's because they sort of can't. You sort of can't weep for the private companies because they're not under your control. But see, everything under the public.
The government stuff.
That's public control. So we get to vote for that. Everybody gets to vote for that. There are
800,000, whatever it is. Well, it is interesting because we got a couple of things here. I love this. Some wag put up there a note to the government people that have been furloughed or lay off. Welcome to the world of mac and cheese.
Well, it's just silliness, as we've talked about it before. There's no reason why these particular federal employees should be used as a pawn. Both sides have flubbed it. Trump came out and, of course, owned it before he started it. Now he can't really blame it on the other side. And yet the other side gets blamed, of course, because what they want, ostensibly, is for the government to open. But yet it's not open, so therefore what the hell are they doing?
Well, there are two things about that. Number one, of course, is the Democrats historically, I mean, since 1990 or something, have said, okay, look, you do this and we'll do that. And then as soon as the Republicans did whatever it was, they said, no, well, we're not going to do that after all. One of the famous things was the no new taxes guy. This is Bush. And they said to him, if you'll raise taxes, we will cut government spending according to some rule. It's a 1-for-1 government spending. So
a quid pro quo type of arrangement. Well, how does that play into this particular one? I mean,
well, because Trump is not doing any quid. He's not going to do. And this is part of the deal. He knows that they're going to renege. If he makes a deal with them and let's say, if you'll open the government, we'll do this, that, or the other. And he knows historically they won't.
Right.
So
Well,
that's a deal that's no deal. That's number one. And number two, I thought it was interesting because there's so many things to this. First of all, I know that a billion here and a billion there adds up to real money, but as we talked about before, $6 billion.
Well, that's why
nothing.
this is a little token fight.
I know.
This is something it's like a remnants of the old days of political fighting, where an issue like this would be a real thing.
Well, you go out and muskets at 50 paces.
Well, not that old.
That's old?
Yeah.
You slap across the face.
Right.
I challenge thee.
The gauntlet.
That's right.
No, I'm talking about from the standpoint of this issue. It just blew up in everybody's face, I think.
Right.
I think everybody has egg all over them in the government in terms of how to deal with this issue. Like I said, Trump's getting blamed for the shutdown happening. The Democrats are getting blamed for not making it stop because obviously they can,
right?
And they want it to,
yeah.
right?
I mean, and it wouldn't cost them anything. It might cost the.
But now they've declared the wall immoral,
right?
And so
the two funeral directors are always out there, or the
right, Morticia
and whatever. Yeah, they're out there all the time.
Lurch.
Yeah, Lurch. Right. What's interesting, of course, is the people that are complaining and they make the news. A massive amount of American food safety inspections aren't happening due to the government shutdown, and it could mean more food poisoning outbreaks.
Well, this is part of what I expected from the media, which is an onslaught of anecdotes about the horror.
Right.
Every little employee so-and-so car. Did you see that they even had the story, as we predicted, about the food cart guy?
Yes. Yes, right. And that's right.
27 years, been selling hot dogs right outside the courthouse, and now nothing.
Nothing, right.
For 3 weeks, man.
Yeah,
I ate them all myself.
That's right. Well,
I had to eat 4,700 dogs.
So anyway, there are two major agencies that oversee food safety inspections: Food and Drug Administration.
Well, this is the TSA. You saw the TSA sick out.
Yeah, the sick out.
But
right.
now they're hiring.
Are they?
Yeah, this is...
How are they paying them?
Well, promise. Well, I owe you.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
Well, they've done this before. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is the Ronald Reagan air traffic controllers. Bye-bye.
Well, that's right. Bye-bye. Well, the other thing was, that I know that it was in California, I think several years ago, they had a problem with being able to pay people, and they paid them in script.
What's that?
It's a piece of paper where it says, I owe you $1.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. If there's really a employment crisis from the standpoint of people, some people really need some jobs, and I don't think TSA screening really has too high a qualification.
No, it doesn't. Well,
do you have hands? You're in.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, exactly. You don't mind feeling up people's crotch, do you? You don't have a problem with that. So anyway, they oversee meat, poultry, eggs, and the FDA looks after the rest. It's interesting because
everybody dies.
Well,
radioactivity is on the rise.
We just had the outbreak.
Unmanned the nuclear power plants.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to see. That's right. We're going to see bomb. But we just had the what was the spinach or whatever it was that.
Right, the E. coli.
E. coli or whatever. That was with inspections.
Right.
With inspections, okay? They had to recall.
Well, they prevented a mass pandemic of.
Oh yeah, right.
Horrifying.
Well, that's right. Well,
wipeout.
Yeah. So anyway.
From the romaine lettuce.
Yeah, romaine lettuce, right? So, but it's interesting. A lot of this stuff, what we're seeing, and there are other. You don't see much of this in the mainstream press, but people are handling it. Basically, they said there's been a vast upsurge in Uber drivers.
Well, that's the other issue that we talked about, which is really this is a small portion of the government. It's not like they're defunding.
Well, it's a third of it.
Okay, but
and of course they're the quote non-essentials. Of course, if people are out there, how do you feel about being non-essential?
Well, what I'm getting at is there's no real leverage. If it were everybody's paycheck,
right,
they'd have some real leverage.
Well, they have, right. I guess they would. Interesting.
Man.
Yeah. Well, again, as you say, there's a lot, and this of course points out exactly why the government is too big, because you have a shutdown, and other than those people are don't have their paycheck, especially if they have direct deposit or something, and they go there, where's my direct deposit? And of course, it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
But the point being that if the government wasn't that big, if it truly was only essential people, then you can bet it would probably stay open. But now, I mean, you've got people that are hangers on or something like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they're talking about and not talking about. As I say, a lot of people are handling it just fine, and even on.
Well, Trump blew it from my perspective. I don't think he's going to do the emergency and wrap it all up, which he could do in no time. I think he's going to lose now because you got people coming out saying now you can't do the emergency, which, as we've talked about in the past, even if he couldn't, that is, even if the courts were going to intercede, he would still have plenty of time to get a lot done.
Oh yeah.
And before they would do that, so.
I mean, he would have had this $5.7 billion wall built up by the time they got around to it.
Or a big part of it, or a bunch of people out there, or something. It would be, and again, you could just blame it on them anyway. So.
Well, what's interesting is the blame game goes like this. One of the things that people don't realize is when you're dealing with in business, when you're dealing with somebody and you say, okay, I'm going to do this. If you do this, I'll do that. And you break up, you say, we're not going to do it, blah, 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 and so forth, so on. And then the other side calls up and says, well, we're going to come back to the table again. And the first question out of his mouth was, what about the wall? Have you made any progress on the wall? And Dancy says, no. He says, well, then I'm out of here. And of course, what happened was the Chuck baby said, he slammed his hand on the table and stomped out.
That's their narrative. I
understand that, but my point is, Trump was right, absolutely right on the money on that. Here's the deal. This is all about the wall. Have you people? I want a wall. Okay, you called the meeting. You've come in here, and now what are you gonna offer me? Are you gonna offer me the wall on any way, shape, or form? No. Then there's no reason to hold a discussion.
Both sides are negotiating effectively. That is, they're both coming and calling out the other side for bad behavior. And hoping the public shames the other side into.
Well, they did say that.
Their...
Of course, this was a HuffPost or something poll, a lefty outfit did Princeton or somebody that they did a poll and they said the needle is swinging against Trump. Okay, so what? I mean, what was the question? What was the methodology? What was the question?
Yeah, I saw.
Do you like the evil horned Trump or?
That's right. Or the nice Democrat.
Yeah.
I saw a Nate Silver poll which showed that a majority of the people blamed Trump for the shutdown, and he's pretty. I mean, he's a lefty, but his polling data is apparently pretty good.
Yeah, apparently it is.
But. That's what I said to begin with. He owned it. He came right out. You can't come out and say, this is going to be my shutdown, and then, on national TV, and then 3 weeks later come back and say, it's them. You just... he
does that all the time.
I know, this was just a huge misstep.
It might have been, but it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if somebody's going to have to cave.
Well,
one way or the other.
Trump has a way out where he wins without caving. On both fronts.
Oh, you mean by a national emergency?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's subject to a lot of problems as well. Okay, next thing on the list, and I thought this was interesting. Psychologists, they have this book that has it's the psychologist's special book of psychological
psychology.
Of diseases. Kind of thing. The DP1 or whatever.
Right.
I forgot what it was called. Anyway, they've come out with the book since in the last 40 or 50 years has gone from, something about this thick to something about this thick. I mean, everything now is some kind of psychological, pathological.
It's all in your head.
And it needs to be, it's all in your head, right. And we need some more psychologists out there to help,
That's
that
right.
you can charge, every week for an hour.
The last chapter is what to do when you're stuck in the matrix.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, I thought that psychologists call traditional masculinity harmful. And so it's interesting. The report backed by more than 40 years of research, and I'm thinking, no.
Well, it's because the one researcher is 40 years old.
I guess it could be, but traditional masculinity is harmful. The APA, that's the psychological people, traditional masculinity as a particular constellation of standards that have held sway over large segments of the population, including anti-femininity, achievement, eschewal of the appearance of weakness, adventure, risk, and violence. So those are the things that's a supreme, that's over-the-top masculinity, and can lead to poor health outcomes, including higher rates of suicide. And traditional masculinity is suppressing emotions, which of course, there's no crying in baseball. No, there's no crying, if the woman cries and the guy doesn't, and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it says that they're more prone to risk-taking and aggression, which is, pathological. And of course, I'm sitting there saying,
who did this study again?
Yeah, well, the study, let me just see who did the study. The American Psychological Association issued guidelines on this, and I say who did it?
The American Psychological Association.
Yeah, that's right. The American. Yeah, that's it. I guess they must have done their own research, and but it's been linked to less willingness by boys and men to seek help. Now, anybody will tell you that a difference between a guy and a girl in when you get hurt or you get sick is it'll blow over. A guy says,
rub some dirt on it.
Rub some, suck it up. That kind of stuff. And I mean this is guys. I mean, this is the craziest thing in the world. And now they're saying that guys are not supposed to be guys when it's built in. Mm-hmm. When you think about it, if war is declared, who signs up? I mean, who immediately signs up?
A bunch of girls.
Yeah, not quite. No, they're run out there, boy, and I want to get into the fight. Let me go kill them.
You just prove it right there. Who wants war?
Well, that's true. A lot of true on that. I mean, that's right.
Well, okay, so here's what this comes down to. I think this, you're right from the standpoint of there are differences obviously between men and women. Some are beneficial, some are negative. You take the good with the bad, no way around it. That's just what you get.
Yeah.
And sure, there are some circumstances where you'd like to have more of one than the other. But say that it's
objectively a psychological medicine need. We need people to tell me about your feelings. I never forget this. I went into marriage counseling years and years and years ago. The psychiatrist said, "Well, tell me about your feelings," and I'm going like, "What? Feelings? What are you talking about?" You just, a total Spock.
That does not compute.
No, it didn't for me. Right. I mean, it absolutely didn't. Now,
right.
Now that I've been with
feeling warmth and
right, exactly,
a bit of gravity.
I'm embarrassed to be here.
A small amount of taste.
Yeah.
Right.
Florida charity worker, 90 years old, arrested by police for feeding the homeless, gets arrested again. He got arrested one day. They let him out on his own recognizance. He went back out there, and this is apparently down in Fort Lauderdale.
Flouted the law after that.
Absolutely. And so they went and arrested him again the next day. Uh-huh. And the deal was he's a 90-year-old guy, and for years, I don't know how long.
Sounds like a rabble rouser.
He's a rabble rouser, right? But this is some park in Fort Lauderdale. Mm-hmm. It's a public park or whatever it is, and he goes out there and feeds the homeless.
He's been a menace for 90 years.
That's right. So anyway, Arnold Abbott is his name, has helped prepare hundreds of meals a week for countless hungry homeless persons in Fort Lauderdale since 1990. But a new ordinance they passed. They got all upset about this. A new ordinance made this illegal to feed the homeless. So he doesn't. Abbott is likely to face a $500 fine for each arrest and could be sentenced up to 4 months behind bars. Now, okay. Overreach or something?
Well, this sounds like an earlier story that we covered, and I'm not sure if they're related or one overlaps the other, but they have certain laws about the way that you can feed the homeless in large jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. And mostly because what will happen is, apparently, some people will go in there, feed the homeless, and just leave all the trash and whatever.
Right. Okay.
Or they're worried, or at least the claim or what they use to stop those people is you're going to poison them.
Right. I was going to say, because if it's trash, there's an ordinance against littering.
Right. And exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And what it is the people in this community trying to control everything that goes on. And they don't like the result or whatever it is that's happening. But how can you argue with somebody giving away food? It's
Well, no. He's 90, and they're going to shove him in prison for 3 months at a time. I mean, as far as I'm concerned,
cane him.
No, well, but the whole point is he's teetering on the edge of the eternity.
Right.
And all he has
Let
to do.
the man feed some homeless people.
Right.
What is it?
You
where is the harm? It's hard to. It's a stretch. It's a
stretch.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just amazing to me that how they would. He's been doing it for 20 or 30 years since 1990. Now they've arrested him before.
Right.
I remember we talked about this in a Jimmy Doan show years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But you could just imagine some people, I guess, down at City Hall with just frowns and furrowed brows, and they just don't like it. They're concerned
for the safety.
Well, that's what it always comes out
Right.
as. But that's the lie. That's how you know it's bullshit, is because...
even here in town, I forget exactly where it is, but when you have a wild game feast or something like that, you have to throw, if you don't have the food, I believe you have to throw it out. I know in some jurisdictions you do, because it's not properly packaged, and by the time it gets over to the homeless people, again, that might not work for, I might be off base on the wild game feast, but I have heard in some jurisdictions, and around here at least once or twice, they said you can't take that food to just because it hadn't been properly covered in saran wrap and wrapped and everything like that. And by the time you get it over there, 10 minutes after the last person has their food and you get it over there, it has bugs all over it. It's starting to mold.
No.
So you can't do that. And that's what they said. It's all food safety, which is, of course, you sit there and you think, well, of course, I guess that's the last thing they're going to do is if they do that, they're going to attract homeless people. Maybe. They're going to do it anyway around here. Okay.
Maybe that's the objection. The guy
I'm sure it is.
sets up a freaking...
They don't have a clue in this town how to do the homeless people. They had a 10-year plan that took 13 years, and it's still not working. So.
Well, there's a lot of kids around here with more money than they should have that are easy prey, I think, for the panhandlers.
Really?
Yeah, the university kids, because they've been given cash. They're away from their folks and supervision for the first time. It's easy pickings. They're an easy target. They're really the most...
well, panhandling, I believe, is illegal inside city limits. Doesn't stop them.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know. Exasperated Democrats try to rein in AOC.
This is another one of those things.
She's making enemies already in the House.
Right.
She has. They're a little nervous because she has 2.2 million Twitter followers.
It's up to 3.4 or something.
Is that what it is? Okay,
Yeah.
3 point. I mean, she can marshal a lot of stuff, and she's always in the news. As they're saying there, others simultaneously warn AOC is destined for a lonely, ineffectual career in Congress if she continues to treat her own party as the enemy. And what she'd done was she said that some of the normal Democrats that have been, like the guy she defeated was, ancient, and but she's talking about some of the other people that have been there forever, and she's saying we need to get progressive people to replace those people because they're weak on free everything. And so, she has actually campaigned against for their primary people that are going against them. Well, she's still campaigning for Democrat, but they're gonna whomp her down. I guess it is.
We'll see. I question whenever I see a story that characterizes the way that the person is viewed. I assume that the story was written by their opponents. So
right.
if it says Democrats are disgusted with AOC, I assume it was written by a Republican. If it says Republicans are disgusted with AOC,
it was probably an insider Democrat. One of the traditional Democrats.
Well, right. They're referring to a couple of specific tweets. I did see some stories where Joe Lieberman, for example, tweeted to her, and she tweeted a little
snarky,
dissy, sort of slight.
Yeah.
But big deal. And look, she's in there. She's having fun. She's doing her thing. She's spreading her philosophy out there. What you gotta like about it is that there doesn't seem to be any filter.
Right.
That is, it seems to be
Took
what
a
you
lesson
see is
from
what
Trump.
exactly what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
It's a lot more reassuring than.
Than the secret stuff. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. No. I mean,
So
I remember when the one time when Pelosi and Schumer went in to talk to the president, and he started to say something, and left the cameras on, and Nancy looks around and says, "Can we do this in private?" And I mean, why?
well,
What are you afraid of?
Well, but she actually needed to say her. That was when she used the cameras to frame the Trump shutdown narrative.
Okay.
So that might have been part of her plan to say, hey, can we do this in private? Okay, well, since we're here now, blah, blah, blah. She's very crafty, very political, very savvy, and super. Look, you could see Chuck was sitting there. It's so amazing. Chuck's sitting there on the couch, giddy that Trump is claiming responsibility and ownership for the shutdown because he knows how it's going to go, and he can't even control his poker face. Sucks. It's awful.
Boy,
He's just okay. Then it's your shutdown, but we say no. It was terrible acting, but it's acting nevertheless. It used to work in the pre 24/7 internet availability. We can see you from 17 different angles on 47 different cameras.
Right.
Era.
Yeah.
And now we can cross-reference with everything you say and everything you do. So I think people like AOC are going to find more of a platform because people are going to recognize them as genuine. I would hope anyway.
Well,
even Bernie.
Right.
Bernie, solid record. I mean, 30, 40 years voting the same way.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So
well, it is interesting, as they said in here. She's the number 3rd most recognized person in the House.
yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I'm surprised she's not
behind
first.
Pelosi and somebody else. But I think, and John Lewis apparently is another one.
I don't even know who that is.
John Lewis, I think. Is,
Oh, he's that black guy.
Yeah.
That did the bridge walk.
Yeah, right. I remember he's hauled that out for 40 years of service, whatever it's called. And of course, they're saying that she's feeling her way around. She doesn't understand the way this place works yet.
Well, we'll see. We'll see who comes
because
out on
she's
top in that fight.
When you got millions of followers, and she can destroy them on Facebook or Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, but they could be millions of 10-year-olds or something for all we know. I mean, it could be little 13-year-old girls. I mean, seriously, 3 million people? That's not that. I think you're probably right. I think she probably does have a strong following, and I do think she is the new face of the new Democratic left. And
well, think about it. If a lot of her people are 16 and 17-year-olds, they're going to vote
next time.
Around.
Exactly.
They're going to vote.
Well, if they continue to embrace socialism, I think, as we talked about last time, more good news. You own it.
Yeah.
So you come out and own socialism. Okay, let's take a look.
Yeah.
And see what we got.
Yeah.
Here.
Let's go on down to Venezuela and see what.
Well, of course, as we talked about, they're talking about America in the 50s with the 91%. Everybody's on board with that. Everybody's on board with Sweden, Norway, 60, 70, 80%. No problem. Tax, highest tax bracket.
Well, people don't. It's funny because I saw the meme on Facebook. There was a meme that showed 1950 family, a 1955 family, 1960.
What they actually paid.
No, not that at all.
Oh.
It's just what it had was 90% tax rate and 85% tax rate or whatever it was, and it showed them. They have a car, they're sitting in front of the television set. They're eating food. I mean, they're living the life. I mean, they're the middle class people.
Right.
And this is at your 90%. Well, of course, it's not really, but we know that because there was like nobody practically that had to pay 90%. I mean, on the above. Remember, it's on the marginal tax return. I mean, let me put it this way: in 1950, and actually until 1968 that I know of, a middle class family could subsist very nice on $15,000 a year. Mm-hmm. That's nowhere. I don't know what that tax bracket.
It was 300,000, I think, and above.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Translates to like 3.4
middle class
million.
family in the early '60s could make it just fine on $15,000.
Yeah, you had to be a millionaire to be paying the 90%.
Oh yeah, and how many? There weren't that many. That's right.
Well, and then you could afford an accountant and write-offs and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I've heard that what it actually paid was something around 50%. or 54 or something like
On
that.
the, well, of course, that's, a lot of it is on the, again, remember, a lot of it is on the over and
Your
above. For
last
instance,
marginal
if the
dollar.
cutoff was 300,000,
Right.
and you made 310,000, yeah, you paid 90% on the 10,000.
Right. After your deduction.
After your deductions, right?
Right. So it ended up being 5,000 or something. But we'll see. What I'm getting at is they'll have to pitch their plan, and we'll see. I don't see anybody jumping on board in a big way with an economic plan that embraces that right now. Although I guess I shouldn't say that. All the other Democrats are jumping in the race. We should talk about that.
Oh yeah, we'll talk that. I got that here in a minute. Before I get to that, one little small thing that's kind of interesting because I have this in order. Starbucks plans to install needle disposal boxes in some bathrooms.
In the bathrooms?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, in the bathrooms.
Oh.
And you know why?
Why?
Well, remember they had the hoorah, the racist hoorah, and because they kicked some two black guys out of Starbucks. This was 6-8 months ago, so whenever it was. And so Starbucks came out and said, "Okay, bathrooms are open. Bathrooms are open. You don't have to buy coffee from us."
And now they're full of needles.
They're now full of needles. That's right. I mean, people are going in there and shooting up, for God's sakes. And so now, in order to do this is so funny.
Are you sure they didn't just participate in like a crazy San Francisco initiative to keep the bathrooms clean or something?
I don't know. All I'm saying is that and it's not obviously in all locations, just the one where the needles are. Mm-hmm. But then, as I said, it's to protect the employees who are cleaning it up. You know, if they get poked or something, they could get something. And
well, there were
so now they're going to have a
cities.
biohazard box there, I guess.
There are a couple of cities. I can't remember if it's Seattle or San Francisco.
That's the same. They both begin with F. What are you talking
relatively
about?
same number of syllables.
Yeah.
That we have seen picture after picture of needles being swept up in the streets. Serious, and one of our tweeting friends out there tweets pictures relatively often about homeless camps and
Oh yeah,
the just incredible mess in some areas, obviously.
yeah, right. It's not you get the idea that it's the whole place.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Well, the guy, at least a couple of them, the guys driving down the road and
well, everywhere on Skid Row.
right on Skid Row. That's right. Okay. People announcing, and I didn't even get them all.
Yes.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes.
Okay, she's going to run for president. She's from Hawaii. Has settled speculation she's going to go. I've decided to run, and I will make a formal announcement within the next week.
Let me get a beer. I'm just going to get a beer.
Yeah, just going to be right. The Hawaii Democrats said there are a lot of reasons behind her decision to run, and named some of the top issues: healthcare, criminal justice, and climate change. Everybody's going to run on climate change.
Well, she's not getting anywhere. Let's go ahead and predict wildly.
Okay. Well, here's another one.
Okay.
Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Okay. She apparently, she's supposedly up there. What I thought about her is that she's running as a person of color.
Yeah. I saw that too. I know. I looked at her and I was like,
wait, why don't you run as an Indian? I mean, she must be, 1/75th black, and to be that racist, I'm just blown away.
hey man.
I know, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I never would have accused her of being a person of color.
Well, you could easily see her being Hispanic, right?
Maybe.
Or like half Indian or something.
Not half.
Quarter.
Indian, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to walk away with the black vote.
Look, I'm telling no.
That's what it comes down to. Right?
I know. But what I'm laughing is, and she was mentored by Willie Brown, who was one of the famous people in the California legislature for years. What he said, he was like Mayor Daley in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
This Willie Brown was that strong in the legislature in California. But I mean, when I look at her, I'm thinking, what happened was she, on a bright sunny day, she walked down the street, and that's her tan.
Misted, right? She's not super, like you said. I
mean, I don't know why anybody would, in this day and age, although I've seen it, would pull the race card. I mean, there was one. There was
What? Are you kidding me? That's the winning card this election practically. Look, if Michelle Obama were to run in this election, she would walk away with the nomination and the election.
What?
No, like not even without even trying. She would get the nomination from the Democrats because she checks all the boxes.
Okay.
And she's been there. And she would win hands down because she's clearly a black woman. And I think that the black population would still vote 80, 90%.
But there's still only 10 or 15, 13.
That's right, but that's all the margin of difference at presidential election ever is 3 or 4%. So if you get 90% of the black, 90% of 12%, that's 10%. That's a huge, as opposed to 5. That's a 5% swing. You're winning. You're winning, walking away.
Well, okay.
But she's not going to run because she doesn't want to be back in the White House. Too much of that. Even to appoint Barack to the Supreme Court, she's not running.
I'm surprised he's not putting her out there. You got to run.
Right. Well, she's going to make $1 billion. Look, when you got $100 million and you live in Hawaii, you already did that. What I mean, unless she's super ambitious, which maybe she is, but she didn't look to me like she was having a great time during the whole thing. Maybe they just always published the pictures of her looking upset because that was the Republican narrative at the time.
Well,
she's the
you
mean.
can say what you want, but you always forget that seminal picture where Barack is sitting next to some babe, and he's looking at her, and then in the next picture you see they've switched places. I'm serious.
Well, that's different. There were 100 pictures of Michelle looking pissed off.
Right.
That was like what the Republican press, if there was still right-wing press at the time, that was their narrative, was look how pissed off she is.
Yeah.
And so, but still, they didn't have a whole lot. I gotta believe it's super high stress. I don't think she's running anywhere. I think that their best bet in terms of people who they could run is Joe Biden.
Really? Well, he is. Yeah, he's on up there in the thing.
He was the vice president for 8 years. Like, he's unassailably qualified from the standpoint of where he's been.
Okay.
And he doesn't have like his worst baggage is that he plagiarized John F. Kennedy's speech or something. And I mean, it's nothing horrible or anything.
No.
He's touchy-feely. They might bring out a bunch of those things. That might bring him down. He might.
Well, the other thing though is he's going to have to debate Trump.
Well, but Joe has a way of just saying stuff like, "Well, then the bees came in. We went down to the farm, Trump," and people just go, "Yeah, they went down to the farm." Like, it doesn't make any sense, but it just sounds homey.
Okay. Did you say so?
And yeah, I think he could do okay.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is there are we've already figured out, maybe there's at least 15 that are potential hats in the ring. We'll see here in the next month or two.
Yeah, I think we'll see a big move. If I were Joe, I'd get in ASAP before they try and talk him out of it. I think they'll try and talk him out of it. I think they will talk him out of it. He'll make some announcement like, "Well, I'm letting the young people take it over." And something like Kamala has a good shot. She'll be in it for a little while. Tulsi, the same type of thing. The women that check some of the boxes, but I don't think they'll go all the way. I think, and you got Beto, of course.
Right, Beto,
he'll have some momentum for a while. But
they're making
and Castro got in.
Yeah, I saw
Julian
that.
Castro.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then there's the outliers. Like, we haven't seen Cory Booker.
Right, Cory Booker.
And you could, I'm telling you, could see people. I'm waiting for the celebrities. I'm waiting for The Rock and Oprah.
Cher,
Oprah. How about the Starbucks guy?
Yeah.
I could see the Starbucks guy getting in. That's who I could see taking it for a while. But if I were Hillary, I would wait until the last possible minute to announce. That's what I would do, and I wouldn't do a tour anymore. I would do a Calvin Coolidge
tour. See, I always carry my hot sauce in my purse.
Seriously, no. I would do a front porch campaign. I would sit on the front porch.
Well, that way she can't stumble.
Exactly. You can't do anything. You get to control the entire narrative. Whenever it is, anytime, it's totally comfortable. You're in no stress. No, you're not falling. You're not
But what's Bubba gonna do? Is he gonna? He's gonna campaign.
Come out and just wave from
I guess
from the.
I guess so. Okay, in one of the outfits, of course, that's also petitioning Congress to open up are FBI agents. The FBI Agents Association, they sent a petition to Congress and the White House on Thursday calling for immediate funding of the Bureau, arguing that the security of the nation is at risk. And they missed their first paycheck, on Friday, and but they will continue anyway, even without a paycheck, to protect the country. This is our highest honor, whatever, and continue on.
So get in there.
Get in there, that's right.
Well, this is just another one of the cracks in the system as it's coming to fruition here. You see Lindsey Graham jumped off the boat today, came back and said, well, we should fund it for a little while.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and
I didn't know that.
You're getting people...
Of course, I don't trust Lindsey Graham at all. I mean, it's funny because my sister lives up there in
South Carolina.
In South Carolina. She says everybody she knows hates the guy, but he still gets elected. So who knows what? That's name recognition, whatever. A sexual assault investigation is underway after a female patient in vegetative state gives birth at a Phoenix nursing facility. I mean, she's been in a vegetative state for 10 years? 10 years. Nobody knew until she was delivering that she had been pregnant.
I mean, it's horribly tragic, but
but on and on. Understand, she's vegetative state, so they got to go in there and turn her over at least, a couple times a day.
Well, I would think it would turn up in routine blood checks, wouldn't it?
Obviously, the nursing. I mean, I'd be sitting there if I was anybody else. I'd be saying, "What are you doing? And we're paying you X dollars a month or whatever it is, and this happens. I mean, what? Are you nuts? I'm suing for $1 million."
Well, yeah, I think people are pretty much aware of sort of rampant abuse at.
But I mean, this is unbelievable. What this is so funny is because, of course, they're getting DNA obviously from everybody.
It's going to be pretty easy.
I mean, when you think about it, if I were if I knew somebody, I'm just saying this, okay, not for me. But
that guy's packing up right now.
Oh man, are you
kidding?
Now? New name, new address, new everything. I mean, he's going into witness protection.
Somebody's calling in sick right now.
Yeah,
it's going to be a few days till I get there.
Yeah. Well, they said they're also doing all the contractor people that have come through there. All the people that change the light bulbs or fix the air conditioner or something like that. So, I just sit there. How do you? The baby is starting to come out, and now you recognize that for 9 months she's been. Oh my God!
Well, they obviously didn't recognize it, or they would have done something about it.
I guess.
Somebody, I can't imagine if they figured it out that they were just like, I didn't see anything.
Well, but as you say, you would think that.
Well, that's what it was. They weren't looking. They weren't doing the turning.
But I mean, if they had done just a regular blood test, for instance.
One would assume maybe she was fat and maybe the blood.
10 years. I mean, 10 years on IV feeding. I don't know. I don't know how fat you can be, but I would guess today, starting today, I would guess that every nursing home in the United States is going to have those little sticks.
Yeah.
And so when somebody in vegetative state whizzes, you check it out.
At least once every month. So often. Yeah.
So anyway. Here's another Facebook users. This is another survey. Older people, conservatives, are more likely to share fake news. This is a study from Yahoo. Now, right away, consider the source.
Yeah.
This is BS as far as I'm concerned.
This is just what we said earlier. As soon as they say, and whenever I hear of a study like that, I got to think to myself, if you counted up 1,000 people, and one group had shared more fake news, what you considered to be fake news, than the other group, then would you not draw that conclusion? Would that
except for the fact that when you consider it's Yahoo, because Yahoo obviously doesn't think a lot of the stuff they put out there is fake news.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a doubly flawed system. Not only do they pick what's the fake news, but also they're assigning a causative relationship between those two. I mean, I don't know how the study was done.
Well, they said it was the researchers from Princeton University and New York. They analyzed the Facebook posts of nearly 1,200 people who agreed to share their data in the aftermath of the 2016 presidential election. So right away, this ain't random. So, this, but I mean, this is
I
news.
suppose you could design it for like 1,200 people, and then you could post some obviously fake some ones you created, and then some, I don't know. I suppose you could.
I don't see.
So what does that mean? That means that all conservatives,
Yeah,
are evil.
old conservatives like me
are evil.
are evil, and I share fake news. Okay,
Right.
so here's some news that I'm going to share.
What do you got?
As a laboratory revokes the honors of controversial DNA scientist Watson. Now,
Oh yeah, saw this.
yeah. Now remember, Crick and Watson won a Nobel Prize for their. I mean, it was all over the
This
papers.
is Watson, not like Dr. Watson. This is Watson.
This is the Watson, right? This guy is a lab rat, totally, and him.
No, he's a legend.
A legend, absolutely a legend, because of discovering the double helix, and they have, I don't know how many
Revolutionized
TV shows. Yeah, I don't know how many TV shows have been on this, showing all the history. And the girl who did a lot of the film also, she didn't get a Nobel Prize, and there's some people that are. But the bottom line is
Crick.
Huh? No. There was a girl who actually started a lot of this stuff, and I forget what her name is. But there's a lot of people that say she should have been in on that.
Wouldn't surprise me, and it wouldn't surprise me that there were more people deserving of it. As I understand, I read an account
Well, this was in
that
the 50s or something. Go ahead.
yeah, I read an account that they were hallucinating on acid when they came up with the idea. By one of them, I think it was by Watson or by Crick.
Now that I'm calling bullshit.
Okay, we'll see.
I mean, that's not in this.
I'll find a link. I'll find a link.
You buy the link. So anyway, what happened was they went through all his awards and everything. Went back to square one because of something he said in a television documentary, where they pulled up some films from the 50s, and in the film, Watson said his views about intelligence and race had not changed since 2007, when he told a magazine that he was, quote, inherently gloomy about the prospect of Africa, unquote, because all our social policies are based on the fact that their intelligence is the same as ours. And he said, but no, not really. So they ashcanned him for this was racist. The fact is that they have now decided that the people in Africa are absolutely equal to. I mean, everybody's equal. The world has 100 don't lose that rocket ship.
I got that in a second. I forgot to put this image up first, which our people can now see. This is the distribution of national IQ averages across the world. Now, I don't know how accurate this is. I just Googled this, found this map.
Oh, wow.
But this obviously supports Watson's contention here. If you look at Africa, the average across the board there, that orange area is 67 to 74 IQ average. The red there is 59 to 67. Equatorial Guinea has an average IQ of 59. That's incredible, if that's accurate. Now, as I said, I mean, I happen to know some things about IQ tests, actually being in the Mensa group, and have an IQ
Mensa
book right
Mensa
here.
boy.
And I can tell you that some of these things seem like they would be culturally dependent.
No question. Look, here's the deal. If you're a hunter-gatherer,
Right.
and you have an IQ of 60 or 70, you do
Right.
fine.
Exactly.
You're
Well,
doing
here's the
fine.
thing. You may know a great deal about bird calls
Or footprints,
Exactly,
tracking, or whatever it is.
exactly. But you don't know dork about numbers. You've never sat down and done math, and so you can't do simple mathematical
well, and
relationships.
what you recognize, here's the deal. On an IQ test, very often they'll have this is to this as this
Right.
is to this, and it'll be a box or a triangle or whatever the hell. But put up there a footprint is to this footprint is to this footprint.
right.
I mean, bang,
Yeah,
bang,
do that,
bang, in the
exactly.
120 IQ.
It probably will.
No,
yeah.
seriously.
That's what I have to think that that's at least part of it. But I will say that all the literature seems to back up this particular map, which, as you can see, has
Racist.
Yeah, well, that's what everybody says. But actually, if you look closely, you can see that even though it looks like the largest swath of highest IQs is over here in China and in Japan and Korea, There are also patches up in Norway here, and the UK, and Iceland, and then also in Italy. And so that represents a pretty broad swath of people, although nowhere really in Africa. I think if you zoom in on
what's interesting is Australia is green.
Yeah.
And yet I don't know, you wonder what the Aboriginal population is in Australia.
Well, they're counting those people mostly. I think they're probably counting people over in Queensland and such.
Well, but again, at the risk of losing everybody, I'm not going to make a big statement about this. I just think it's interesting that they chose now to go ahead and renege on everything.
Why not just?
What does he care? I don't know how old he is, but
he's got to be 1,000,000 years old. But I would imagine that he would care quite a bit. But to me, it's ridiculous overreach. This is like destroying Trump's star on the Walk of Fame. It's like, look. Censure him for what he's doing now or what he just said. He came out in support and said, yeah, this is what I believe. He just came out and reaffirmed it in 2007. Yeah. Okay, so what? So condemn that statement by him. Don't try to destroy his life. It's like, why people, this sort of extension, this sort of attack that gets broader and goes into everybody's life, like they want him kicked off of Twitter or something now. I mean, look, there's no.
There was something about that. I remember that. Elon Musk shows off SpaceX's massive Starship test rocket.
Yes. Now
I am laughing at this so much in a way.
Why?
Because it is stereotypical. I mean, look at that. It's Flash Gordon. I mean, it's just...
Well, we talked about this last week, of course. The one on the right is an artist's rendition. The one on the left is an actual photograph.
Right.
Amazing. They did a great job, obviously, with the artist's rendition. It looks a lot better, though. To me, the one on the left looks a little like it's covered in tinfoil. A little bit wrinkly there. I'm a little disappointed.
Well, I know, but you say that, but of course that has to do with the angle, the sunshine on one side, and
yeah. But man, it still looks damn spectacular.
I mean, you look at this, and I'm laughing in a way because they've thought since the 40s. When Wernher von Braun showed up over here in 48 or wherever we got over here, that it's 3 stages to get into orbit. I mean, he was...
Not anymore.
No! You gotta wonder how that's going to work. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, it has three engines there, so...
Yeah, true. Well, I'd like to see that when that baby takes off.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Okay, speaking of space, India is now getting into it plans a manned space mission by December 2021. Fine, they're going to send 3 people up into orbit or whatever. 3-person would make the Asian giant the 4th country after Russia, United States, and China to put people in space. We're planning to have the first unmanned mission by the, let's see, are we in, not this year, but in about 2 years, the first unmanned rocket goes around like we did with Gemini or whatever. So anyway, they've already sent, I didn't realize this, they already sent an orbiter to Mars, which is still operational. That was in 2013, India did. And last year they launched a record 104 satellites in one blast-off, which was a record. Thought that was interesting. And so what happened is the government, their version of NASA, whatever, has approved around $1.4 billion to provide the technology and infrastructure, which is interesting in a way because it says here the sun would make it one of the cheapest in the world. China put its first humans in space, but its such and such program cost more than $2.3 billion. Well, fascinating, of course, and again, early adopters going to pay a fortune, but if you ramped up what we paid for our guys, we're talking 100 billion, 200 billions in today's money. To put our guys in orbit around space. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, another space item here that's interesting. Earth's magnetic field is on the move. I saw a map where a lot of people don't realize this. The magnetic field, it's a magnet, and it moves.
Yeah, it goes all over the place.
It goes
been
all over the
moved
place.
for a
Well,
while, and it's always moving.
Well, they said now it's moving faster. They check it like every 10 years, but now they said in the last 2 years or something it's moved as it did 10 years before or something. And but what's interesting to me when I looked at the map, it's actually moved over next to the actual North Pole.
Right, the geographic.
The geographic North Pole. It's like really close to it now. So I guess I don't know anybody other than Cub Scouts or anybody that uses a compass anymore. I don't just but
well, shipping lanes are still determined by that. Yeah, I think so.
They did mention something like that, but in this day and age, to think that
you just use GPS.
Oh my God, you got to be kidding me! Of course.
Yeah.
So, but I just thought it was interesting. They're all, they're apparently there are some instruments that are going to need correcting ahead of time before they do apparently make correct. They make corrections on the atomic clocks, the GPS clocks, because they follow Einstein's
relativity curve
or whatever it is. And so they have to, like every couple of years, they have to have a leap second or something on the ground. But also those clocks have to be realigned apparently in order to keep them synchronized, and because they're speeding at whatever they are, which slows down time. So
right.
So anyway, that takes care of Earth's magnetic pole.
Well, yeah, there's really no danger or anything associated with that unless, as we have seen in the past, the Earth's magnetic pole does flip at times. And one of the things that I'm actually somewhat concerned about is the speed of the flip.
Right.
Whether or not there's variation, whether or not...
Here it is.
Yeah, yes. Or it would be fine if the whole thing flips in a nanosecond or something.
Yeah.
But what if it sort of wavers and waffles for a few years or centuries?
Well, when you think about it, of course, there are lots of animals that depend on that magnetic.
Not only that, but of course, it's our ray shielding from the sun. So if a big portion of it goes down, we get fried. At least that is one of the possibilities. I don't know that we've seen too much evidence of that in the past. There is one extinction event that they blame on, theoretically, a potential nearby supernova that happened. And that is the type of shielding.
Gamma rays.
Right, exactly. It just sterilized a portion of the Earth as we rotated around. But
what are the odds?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't think we know enough about it to predict where that's going. But so far, as you said, you think it's moving faster. I saw the map. It looked to me like there were a little faster movement between 2000 and 2010 than between 2010 and 2018. Or like it looked like it sped up for a little while and then started to slow back down before where we are. But
yeah, again, well, anyway, this is another fake news.
Yeah, there you go.
So the last thing I've got is another religious thing, very important. Mecca's Grand Mosque plagued by swarms of locusts. I thought this is so. I mean, I'm sitting laughing. That here's the deal: a massive swarm of locusts plagued Mecca, Saudi Arabia early this week, prompting authorities to claim Islam's holiest site to launch a cleaning operation. I'm telling you, if I were those guys, I'd say this is the wrath of Allah. You've done something wrong, because we know that it wasn't all that long ago in geological time, 3,000 or 4,000 years, there was a plague of locusts in Egypt by their god. So now, what's his name?
But the thing is, there are plagues of locusts all the time over there. That's just sort of a natural, recurring thing. They eat them. There's like a big thing. There's a
cook them up.
Yeah.
Protein.
Yeah, exactly. They say in some ways it's a gift from the gods. There's a great movie, Hidalgo, that has a great scene in there where
I did not know
the guy eats the bugs as they fall from the sky and survives.
Okay, well they've sent cleaning crews in there to clean them up.
Well, they happen by the bajillions.
Yeah.
It's amazing. If you've ever been in one of those storms. I was in a grasshopper storm one time in Mexico, and it was amazing.
They said, that when they do that, there's a whole philosophy on this, when they do it and how they do it, and you can kind of tell when they're getting ready to do it again or something. But they can strip the whole field in no time at all.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
I mean, they have clouds that descend on these fields, and and then the cloud flies away, and you look and there's nothing. Interesting. So anyway, that's what I've got. How about you? Anything?
Cool. 4:59, right on time. Let me see if I got anything at all. Let's see. Well, we did sort of the New York Times or the Washington Post had an article out, which I thought was kind of silly, but I won't get into it at this point. Rachel Maddow retweeted it. I just couldn't believe anybody would take it seriously. It starts off and it's automatically a hit piece right from the beginning. It starts off and characterizes what we're going to read right before it even says anything. It says, Trump has taken extraordinary measures to conceal his actions, his conversations with Putin.
Yeah, I was gonna say something about that.
And then he said their first accusation was that he took the notes of his own interpreter away.
Right.
And my first thought was, do you think he took the notes away from his interpreter so that his interpreter would not have the notes? Or so that he would have the notes?
Yeah.
That is to say, doesn't it make sense? The interpreter knows what happened. The interpreter was there. They're not going to forget just because he doesn't have his notes. If he doesn't want the interpreter to say anything, taking his notes is not going to do anything about it. But you would take the notes in order to see what the other guy said, especially in a very sensitive meeting.
Sure.
But
well, the other thing is that they're all totally bent out of shape about this openness and, why won't you tell us? You're not telling anybody.
Right.
And I'm thinking, it was a secret meeting.
Well, and not only that, but there was another guy there, Tillerson, who came out and gave 2 reads of the event.
Oh, was that the one where Tillerson was there?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I
it's
thought it was
like
another one.
They did. Well, it seemed like to me that was the one.
I think I didn't realize that. I know Tillerson was in one of them, but I thought it was another one that they were all bent out of shape. It was one-on-one with the 2 interpreter people, and that was it.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but it's just this stuff keeps coming out. I hear Mueller's in the final stages of investigation. We'll see. I think he's going to drag it out for another year and a half. The Democrats, apparently the House is going to open up an investigation into Trump's financial situation to see if there's any Russian money laundering influence. They're going to subpoena his tax returns. I guess as if the IRS is protecting Trump. As if the IRS is going to... You got to figure, if they're going to subpoena the tax returns, they got to subpoena an IRS representative to come and interpret the tax returns.
Yeah.
They're not going to come in and say, well, clearly this shows money laundering and we just didn't do anything about it. You know they're going to come in and say, nothing here, nothing to see here. That's because they're going to cover their own. But anyway, it's this amazing condemnation policy that we're seeing.
Well, they just tried to fire. What they've done on one of these things is they're trying to fire up the Russia thing all over again. Now they've got somebody else said something, so we need to revisit the Russia thing. And
well, I think Trump has clearly abdicated to Russia already.
Yeah, right.
He's given Putin the nuclear football. It's just a question of time here.
He's Putin's puppet.
That's right. Finally, the last thing I'll mention is, I thought it was interesting, there was a little story, I don't know how true it is or not, but there seemed to be a small local reporting entity, a former local news station, I guess, if you will, down on the border, which was reporting that they were asked by CNN to provide a story.
Right.
That they provided a story which was positive for the border wall, and then CNN rejected it. CNN, of course, comes out and says, "We do this all the time."
Yeah. We had nothing to do with it.
Right, and that could be.
It could be. We asked 20 stations, and that was one of them we just.
Right, and that's fine, and that could be. But what I'm getting at is this: if we have projected, the mainstream media seem to be diving into the tabloid journalism inextricably from here on out, it would seem that would open up space for people to come into to offer actual journalism, actual on-the-ground reporting.
Yeah.
The local news affiliates in a perfect spot to sort of pick up the ball and start doing that type of thing. We'll see. I don't know. Just kind of.
Well, one of the problems you've got with it is, if it's quote good news, it's not. It's the wire. It might even go out on the wire service, but nobody's going to read it.
Well, for example, we had some good news this week about Centonia Brown. I think it was in her last name. Yeah, she was the girl who was sentenced to life for killing her alleged assaulter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
Tennessee governor came out and commuted her sentence because of what Kim Kardashian does.
Okay.
Kim Kardashian champions it. That's a perfect piece of puff news for people to come out and say, hey, look at it. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. It's interesting to me, the news these days. But all right, that's all I got.
Okay. Well, we'll be back on Wednesday.
So thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it. Kara and Kelly, Robert, hey, Bubble. Good to see you guys. This is Kevin MacLeod. This track is called Fork and Spoon. Earlier you heard Cold Funk and Whiskey on the Mississippi. These are our free tracks here. Good stuff. So, we'll be back at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. So join us. Send us an email.
Yeah, if you think something we need to talk about, we need to pontificate on, send that along. We'll talk about anything. We have an opinion on everything, just about.
All right. I'm Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doan Show. See you soon.